Hello, my name is Desiree Cantrell, and this is my submission for my term presentation for Politics 201. In this presentation, I'm going to talk about Abraham Lincoln and his interpretation of the Constitution. We're going to go over the dilemmas of the nation and what he faced as president. We'll talk about what some historians argue are what he violated in his term as president. We're also going to go over what in the end made all of his actions constitutional. With that being said, Shakespeare said in Hamlet, "Heavy is the head that wears the crown," meaning when you're in a position of power, you have an immense burden on your shoulders to do the right thing. Perhaps this is most true for Abraham Lincoln. He was handed a nation that was slowly crumbling and dividing under all the different decisions that were being made. Specifically, we'll talk about emancipation of slavery. The North had outgrown its need for slaves in their industrialization, pardon me. The South was still very reliant. They were built on slavery, and their production relied on the continuation of slavery. So the biggest argument was if slavery was going to be allowed in the states to come to the United States, and whether it was even up to the federal government to make that decision or if it should be left to the states. It's also important to note as we go forward that Lincoln was a lawyer before he was president. So his interpretation of the Constitution was in the confines of the law, meaning that he is really justified in a lot of the decisions that he does make. And as the North and South are slowly dividing, the South has attacked Fort Sumter, and Abraham Lincoln has to make some decisions. He says, "If the United States be not a government proper, but an association of states in the nature of contract merely, can it, as a contract, be peaceably unmade by less than all the parties who made it?" So here we really see that he was a lawyer because he's arguing that if the United States was a contract and the South wanted to violate that contract by leaving the states, and the North didn't agree, is it legal? And Abraham Lincoln argued that it was not legal. Historians argued that Abraham Lincoln violated individual liberties. Abraham Lincoln really quickly on in the Civil War revoked habeas corpus, which was basically due process of the law. Um, when somebody would express their First Amendment right, so freedom of speech, and disagree with the government, disagree with anything Abraham Lincoln was doing, or um, support the Confederacy in any way, the military would be able to go in, make an arrest, and not give them due process of the law. Now, habeas corpus was a temporary means to an end. It wasn't something Abraham Lincoln intended to practice throughout his presidency, which made him not a dictator, but someone that was trying to protect democracy. This continues on when he enables the Emancipation Proclamation. And in this, it's important to note that slaves were seen as property in this time. So Lincoln says, "Is there and has there ever been any question that by the law of war, property, both of enemies and friends, may be taken when needed? And is it not needed whenever taking it helps us and hurts the enemy?" So by freeing slaves or by taking away the property of southern states, it is bettering the position that the North is in for the Civil War, and therefore it is to strengthen the unity of the nation in its entirety, whether the South likes it or not. So why is everything that Abraham Lincoln is doing and has done okay? Well, first off, it's important to note that the Abraham Lincoln administration and the courts at the time were very, very small in comparison to what we have today. So they didn't have people to give citizens due process. So if you violated or if you said anything treacherous about the Union, there wasn't enough people to process all of these violators. So Abraham Lincoln was kind of left with the choice in order to make things go as quickly and smoothly as possible to not give everyone a due process of the law. And this eventually, along with not having anyone necessarily in his administration, there was not a lot of people. Congress was actually frustratingly enough not in session, especially at the beginning of the war. So a lot of the beginning decisions that Abraham Lincoln had to make were forced decisions. There was no one for Abraham Lincoln to ask if this was okay, because obviously a president cannot enact war. But as Fort Sumter was attacked by the South in the beginning, Abraham Lincoln declared that the nation was attacked and in peril because of this attack. So because of this, and because the president is allowed to protect the nation, Abraham Lincoln argued that he was in all legal ramifications by protecting the nation. And Congress eventually backed him up with this, along with many of the other decisions that Abraham Lincoln made, making everything that could have been a bend of constitutional presidential power okay, which Abe argued his innocence through this. Um, and And Abe argued that he would never have done anything that the Congress themselves would not have done. All of this put together means that Abe really didn't violate the Constitution. He was only bending and exercising his rights as president. Sorry about that. All right, and this last page is my works cited page. All of the works at the bottom here are also in my term paper. And I also included this picture of Abraham Lincoln. This is him before the war, youthful and ready to take on any of the problems the nation may come across. And then sadly, this is the picture of him after the war. It's very, very different. You can see the wrinkles have set in, the stress has set in. Abraham Lincoln's personal life wasn't great as well, so he had a lot on his plate, and I just want to take a moment to appreciate that. And I believe that does end my presentation here. If you have any questions, please let me know. If I said anything wrong, please let me know. I appreciate all of your constructive criticism here. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you.